Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome as always to the PSGL YouTube channel. My name is Jake and I'll be taking you through the F7 League tonight as it takes centre stage for round 9 around the Suzuka International Racing Course. As always, PSGL are sponsored by Brutal Democracy, an esports organisation who are providing £250 worth of prize money across the top 3 tiers, so a massive thank you as always to them. And I hope you're all having a fantastic evening, and we should be in for a fantastic race here tonight. Of course, last time out we raced at the Hanoi Street Circuit for round 8, as we saw Juice take his first win, followed by Jonis the second, who strengthens his championship lead, and Rowan, who picked up third for his very first podium of the season. The rest of the points positions were picked up by Game Freaker, Powdy, Hulkenberger, Tim Matz, Shoib, Vapor King and Cowboy, who took 10th but also got an additional point for doing the fastest lap of the race. Now in terms of the championship, coming into this round, Jonis is now in a very strong position on 66 points. We've then got Powdy in second on 50 points, so 16 points adrift. Game Freaker is in third on 43. We've then got Tim Matz on 37, Hulkenberger in 5th on 30 with AMS just a point behind on 29. As for the Constructors' Championship as well, just very briefly on that for you. We've still got Racing Point out in the lead on 79 points, however it is very, very close now in this championship battle, with Williams on 74, McLaren also on 74 and Mercedes in 4th on 73. So a very close battle is brewing indeed in the Constructors' Championship. But of course tonight the focus is all on this quite incredible legendary racing track for sure. A track that covers 3.6 miles and features 18 turns and is infamous for its figure of 8 layout, the only track to be laid out as such on the F1 calendar. The track was opened in 1962 and has been the most used venue since for the Japanese Grand Prix. And a track that features many sweeping corners and of course plenty of gravel traps to catch you out. Of course, 20-30 years ago you'd have probably thought, well yeah, of course every track has gravel traps. But of course this is becoming a much more bigger rarity in F1 these days. But certainly not around here. This is very much an old school style track. So we've got the first few cars out on the circuit then, and we're just going to follow Hulkenberger around a lap of this circuit. I'm actually going to stay off board of him because it sounds like he's revving the nuts off the engine, which isn't a particularly nice sound. As he comes up now towards the hairpin, this is potentially an overtaking opportunity in the race if you get a good run on the car in front of you into the braking zone. So there is opportunities to get past through there. And we've got 27 laps tonight, so quite a race ahead for these drivers. And at the moment we've only got AMS out on medium tyres, so everyone else getting straight down to business on the soft compound tyre. As Hulk comes up now to the end of Sector 2. And of course this final sector, very, very quick sector. You're through with flat out 130R before you pick your braking spot for the final chicane. Be sure to clip both apexes nicely, which Hulkenberger does, and he will set our opening lap time of qualifying, which is a 1:27.1. We're now going to go on board with Juice. Of course, last week's race winner showed some incredible pace in his 2 races so far, and expect him to be right up at the sharp end once again tonight. As Shoib lowers the benchmark by a 10th of a second. Jonis now goes quickest on a 26.7. What's Juice got for his opening lap? He goes a 10th of a second quicker. A 1:26.6 to go fastest overall at the moment. The time's very close in these early stages. We'll now follow Patuka. Game Freaker now goes to pole. The Belgian driver going quickest in a 1:26.4, so that time's tumbling already. We've got Abiadun making his return to PSGL here tonight in the F7 League, and he goes at 5th for his first lap, just narrowly ahead of his teammate. In fact, we've got Rowan and Hulkenberger who have done identical lap times, so that's an interesting thing to note there, as Patuka puts it onto the front row of the grid in 2nd place. Steph's already invalidated their lap. I'm interested to see if anyone goes for a second lap. I'll have a look at AMS, but he's backed off it for now, so we'll follow Powdy around a lap of this Suzuka circuit then, through this very technical, fast sweeping first sector where rhythm is absolutely crucial to your lap time. You want to get the lines hooked up all the way through. You know, if you get just one of the lines wrong, it costs you a temp or two through the rest of the sector. As Powdy takes too much traction and has a spin. And we mentioned those unforgiving gravel traps. Well, Powdy's found himself straight in one of them early on in qualifying. So this track can bite you if you ask for too much out the car or even out of the track limits themselves. Is there anybody who will go for a second flying lap? Let's have a look at... Well, I don't know what's happening there. We joined on board with the two Ferraris who are having their own separate sort of a ding-dong on their end lap. That's Tim, Mats and Marvin. Not quite sure what that's all about, if I'm completely honest. But all friendly there. Well, Marvin's going to get into the pits first, so he'll have to wait a little bit longer. And AMS is just also recovering to the pits. Will Powdy go for a second lap, or will he go into the pits? Let's have a look. I'd be surprised, to be honest, if he does go for another lap, and I think he's just ruined that chance anyway. Oh no, he's going for it, so we'll follow Powdy around once again. Now that lap time will be fine, so he won't have this time invalidated, so he's going to go for a second flying lap on these soft tyres and see how they hold up. Of course, he lost it at the... Oh, that's not a great line into there. I suspect he's going to back off this lap now. It's not working in the early stages of qualifying for Powdy. This is, of course, where he span on his previous lap. He'll have taken it a lot easier this time around, and looks to me like he's cruising it now. Would that be fair to say? Yeah, he's not using any ERS, so, and he's invalidated now anyway, so he will not be improving, and he'll be coming back into the pits. I'm not sure what we've got. Is that Shoaib, I believe, who is quite close to starting a lap, so we'll go on board with Shoaib, currently up in 5th place. Been a solid enough point scorer this season without really threatening the big positions. We'll be hoping tonight can change that. Often we've seen him run the alternative strategy in races because he does tend to qualify outside the top 10 quite often. But right now he's well inside that, as he starts his second flying lap then. Well, let's go with the broadcast cameras for this lap. Some very nice overhead shots here through this opening sector. And looks like his lines are pretty on point. He's got a Ferrari just in front of him. Hopefully that won't hold him up. He's kept out of the way nicely. Shoaib is less than a temp up on his first sector time, as he now goes under the bridge and towards a hairpin. Of course, this corner made very famous by Japanese racing driver Kamui Kobayashi, as he did plenty of overtaking moves back in his F1 heyday in the sort of 2011-2012 time. And he actually got a podium here in 2012 as well, which was, for me, one of the most emotional podium moments, seeing him being able to celebrate in front of his home crowd. Shoaib runs a little bit wide there on the exit onto the back straight. Is he still up on his time? No, he's lost a couple of attempts. That probably will have come from that exit there. He's going to find it hard to make up 2 attempts in such a short final sector, but he'll give it a go. And he's invalidated his lap in his efforts to do so. Jonas has invalidated his lap. He will not be improving. We got Game Freaker. Game Freaker's on a lap, so we're going to follow him round. Can he improve on his 1 minute 26.4, which currently has him on pole position? Game Freaker's still an outside bet for the championship, of course. Jonas has a decent enough lead right now, but of course we still have 6 races left to go as Hulkenberger actually now tops his teammate at the top of the timesheets, does a 1:26.4 himself, but how long will that last, because Game Freaker is on a better lap and he now goes back to the top on a 1:26.3, so it's a McLaren 1-2 at the front, and in their quest to win the Constructors, that's exactly what they would want, as Juice will not be improving on this lap. Tucker isn't exactly improving either. Let's have a look at what AMS is up to. Unfortunately, he's invalidated his lap. We've got a few people on their laps who have invalidated. Let's follow the racing point of Anosha Ties. As he's invalidated and nearly lost it in the process as well, so not what he would have wanted. And I think a few drivers struggling to improve. Let's see what Tucker, does he improve? No, he did not. He went a 1/10 of a second slower than his previous effort. Abia done just out on track, so I will follow his hot lap, but we've got drivers out there who should be closer to starting a lap. We've got Powdy. He's not had a good time of it in the early stages of qualifying. He admits qualifying just isn't his strong point, and he does want to improve in this area of things. Can he hook up a lap here to put himself into contention? This is a real driver's circuit. You can really hook things up as Jonas now goes up to the top of the timesheets. Lap came out of nowhere pretty much, but he's done a 1:26.1, a very nice lap indeed from the Williams driver, the championship leader at the moment, and he's looking pretty formidable at this stage. He actually had some internet issues in the build-up tonight, so it was a question mark as to whether he was going to be able to race, but thankfully he has managed to get everything sorted in time, and he is racing. And clearly showing that those internet issues have not played any sort of havoc with his mental state, because he is firmly on it from the word go here, and setting the pace. AMS just said he had no idea Abiadun was in the lobby. Yep, he's an F7 driver now, so very much another healthy competitor to add to this incredibly tight grid. As Powdy goes up now to the final chicane of the circuit. Time where you can really lose and gain time, and of course it's quite easy to invalidate your lap if you get it wrong. Powdy, this is going to move him very much up the timesheets, and he goes up to 6th place on a 26.7. I think he'll be pretty happy with that effort, all things considered, and it's right in the ballpark of where you want to be. Still got a number of drivers though yet to break into the 27s, and we've in fact got one of them on a lap right now, but Shoaib is actually invalidated. So we will follow Abiadun on his lap. Let's go on board. Let's not go on board him because he's invalidated his lap, unfortunately. So we're seeing quite a few invalidations, and that would suggest potentially in the race we will get some corner cutting warnings, undoubtedly, as the race goes on. So that's something to watch out for. Let's go on board with the Mercedes of AMS. Just going up to the end of his outlap at the moment. Did his opening lap time on the medium tyre, so he's got plenty of time in hand in which to find. And if he can replicate that sort of lap time on the quicker compound of tyres, he could put it on the first couple of rows of the grid. We'll go back to the broadcast angles for this lap, and through the final chicane now. Again on the opening straight of the lap to start his probably first flying lap, I would say, on the soft tyre. So let's see what AMS can do here. Of course, wasn't racing last time out at Hanoi. I believe that was the first race this season he's actually missed. And when he has been here, he's been a threat. He's been very fast. And I should expect here that he'll be a bigger threat, and it'll be a real boost to Mercedes, who have seen their constructors fight dwindle in the last couple of races. It'll be a great boost. And to have AMS back, but having said that, he's gone off. Just ran a little bit too wide, and once the grass catches you out there, you're only going in one direction, unfortunately. And that's towards the wall. So that brings an end to his lap. And to be honest with you, looking at the time left, if he hasn't got enough fuel for another lap, he's in a bit of trouble here. Because he won't be able to get back into the pits and start another lap. So that could be it for AMS's qualifying. It's likely he'll fall outside the top 10 in the last couple of minutes. In fact, we're going to go on board with one of the drivers that could do that. We've got Tim Matz just starting his latest lap. Abiodun will not be doing another lap. He's currently 8th, but he's retired from the session. So that's his session over. And it'll be touch and go as to whether he claims a place in the top 10. Both Ferraris out early to do their final flying laps. Tim Matz a 10th of a second faster in the opening sector. And now up to the hairpin, a small lock-up on the left front. He tries to turn it in, he gets the car turned in, no, and straightened out pretty nicely, so that shouldn't have affected him too much. Now up to Spoon Curve, it's important you hook up both apexes here. You don't want to run too wide on the exit because, well, you can either get your time validated or you can compromise your exit onto this straight. And that'll ruin your run all the way down to the final chicane. Of course, 130R used to be a pretty challenging corner. It's now comfortably flat out in these cars. You barely even recognise it's a corner. In fact, it can be a potential move for overtaking in the race. We shall see on that one. This might very well be Tim Matz's final lap of the session, and it's good enough for P7. So AMS does indeed fall outside the top 10. Marvin has backed off his lap, so he must have made a mistake somewhere. And Oshitai's is 3 tenths up. I'm just going to quickly look, see if Patuka, who's also on a lap, is he further into his lap? He is, but he's not on a particularly quick lap, so we will actually go on board with an Oshitai's, who is P12 at the moment. Would expect a little bit more from him, but he's finding a lot of pace so far on this lap. Got Game Freak starting his lap. A few drivers still on their out laps. Got 40 seconds left in which to start their final hot laps of the qualifying session. It looked quite overcast to begin with, but it seems to have brightened up as the session's gone on. And Oshitai's now 6 tenths of a second faster. Looking at that, he's going to put himself on the first couple of rows here if he can hook up this final corner. A little bit deep, I would have said, into the first part. Oh no, he's lost it on the exit! He's lost on the exit of the final corner and he's crashed into the pit lane wall, actually. Very strange place to go off. He just lost it under traction, and that's ruined an Oshitai's qualifying. And he at best will start from P12. We've got Steph on a lap as well. Actually, no, Steph isn't improving. Jonas will not be going any faster either. Game Freak is not on a particularly fast lap either. What's Patuka up to? Oh, Patuka's on an absolute blinding lap. If they keep this pace up, Patuka's going to snatch pole position away from the championship leader. Into the final chicane. It's important you get this car straightened up as quickly as possible. It looks very good through there. Patuka, is he going to be able to snatch pole position? Yes, he is. A 1:26.0. That's a fantastic lap right at the end of qualifying. And can anyone do anything about that? It doesn't look like anyone's on a particularly fast lap. What's Shoaib up to? He looks like he's still going for it. There's maybe Rowan as well. Oh, but Shoaib has unfortunately invalidated his lap. Rowan's probably the final one then. Currently in P10. Looks like he's going to improve on that somewhat though. Rowan across the line, and that's good enough for P4, and he splits the McLarens. I think that's a pretty solid effort there from him. McLaren, I think, will be pretty satisfied too to be 3rd and 5th in qualifying, but it's Patuka in the Mercedes. We're talking about his teammate AMS holding up the team effort here, but Patuka's shown he's one to be feared as well. He's taken pole position for the Japanese Grand Prix. Championship leader Jonas will start alongside him. Game Freak a 3rd. We've got Rowan 4th, Hulkenberg a 5th, Juice. And based on his pace at both the opening 2 races we saw him at, I'm a little bit surprised he's only 6th. We've got Powdy in 7th, Tim Matz in 8th, Shoaib 9th, Abiodun does stay inside the top 10, and AMS will start 11th, which he's actually quite happy about. So 11th place, as we know in this game, isn't exactly the worst place to start from. And to say he did that lap time on mediums as well suggests he's going to be a threat to come the race. We've then got Inertia tyres in 12th. We've got Steph in 13th. And Marvin takes the final spot on this 14-car grid for this evening. And wow, looked to throw over word like the championship leader was going to set a big statement in qualifying. But Patuka has definitely thrown a spanner in his works, and it's going to be interesting to see over the next 27 laps who's going to come out on top here at Suzuka. Like I say, we are getting to the business end of the championship now. Of course, next week will be round 10. We make the short journey west to the Shanghai International Circuit in China. And as our Asia tour continues, and then of course we go to the Americas shortly after that, and we end up actually finishing the season at round 14 at Brazil, a historic track in which to end what's been so far a very captivating F7 championship. And I would not be surprised at all if the championship goes down to that final race. I certainly hope it does. I think Jonas will not be hoping that though. He'll want to have it wrapped up before then, if possible. So once again, it's looking pretty overcast for the race. Don't think there's any rain predicted. Certainly nothing I've heard about from AMS or anybody else in the chat. So I'll suggest that there's no rain coming, but the skies ahead definitely look a tad bit threatening. I would say that much. And you never know. The Japanese weather can be unpredictable on occasion. We've seen certain qualifying sessions actually having to be done on Sunday at Japan because the weather's been so bad on the Saturday. So it is one of the tracks where weather can play a factor. We'll see if it does here this evening. But the drivers now set off on their outlaps. Let's have a look then at the tyres that those outside the top 10 have gone with. So only Steph has opted to go with the soft tyre. So even though he's outside the top 10, he's still decided that the soft tyre is the best tyre for him to start on. And then the others, AMS, Inosha and Marvin, have opted to go for the medium tyres. So it'll be interesting to see how the strategies play out. I certainly think that AMS and Inosha could be big threats. There's definitely more pace in them, I believe, than their qualifying time suggested. Certainly in AMS's case, as his lap time was on mediums anyway in qualifying. He never actually improved on the soft tyres due to having, I think, one lap invalidated and another where unfortunately went off the road. So Mercedes and McLaren, I would say, are looking in pretty strong positions at the moment. You can see there the recommended strategies there. Soft to hard. Then you got a two-stopper. I'd expect the majority of drivers to try and aim for a one-stopper here. But of course, safety cars can change all of that in a heartbeat. Of course, strategies have got to be fluid. You know, you can't have one strategy set out in your head and stick to it no matter what. You've got to be prepared to, if something happens, you've got to be prepared to change your strategy when needed. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. This is not the easiest track to overtake on, I wouldn't say. I think for the majority of the lap, you are literally in the case you do have to follow the driver in front. But there are a couple of opportunities into the final chicane, into turn 1. Probably the most popular. You've then got the hairpin, which is another potential overtaking spot, but a little bit tougher, as you do not have the aid of DRS into that one. The driver's now lining up on the grid. Just waiting now for Marvin to line up at the back, which he is doing now. And now that he's lined up, we'll be close to getting underway here for the F7 Japanese Grand Prix. The lights have illuminated, and when they go out, let battle commence here at Suzuka. It's a fairly even start from the front two. You've actually got the McLaren of Game Freaker making an excellent start, but nowhere really to go with it, and Patuka takes the lead into turn 1. Jonas remains in second. We've got Game Freaker third, Rowan fourth, Hulkenberger fifth, Juice sixth. It's the same top six as when we started, so no real changes of position there. You've got some changes happening further down, and Osha Tyres on those medium tyres made a great start, and we've got Tim Matz, who I believe has had an issue. Oh, and there's been contact. The two Ferraris find themselves off the road. I don't know if it was contact between the pair of them, but that's not ideal start for Ferrari at all. Tim Matz down to the back, so is Marvin, and they've got a lot of work to do from there. We've actually got a move being made there. Juice has got up to 5th place past Hulkenberger, so that's an important move for him as he looks to recover after what I think for him would have been quite a disappointing qualifying. We've then got Onosha Ties and Shoaib, the 2 racing points going side by side, and it looks like, oh, it's so close here. We've got Shoaib on the inside, but he's going to have to back out, and Onosha Ties on those medium tyres is absolutely flying at the start of this Grand Prix and is up into 8th place. AMS 2 now looking to get past Shoaib. So I don't think there was any team orders at play at Racing Point there, but a lightning fast start from Onosha Ties was enough. And AMS, oh look, it's side by side for 130R, and AMS has gone right round the outside, and now we're going 3 abreast into the following corner. And Shoaib has actually lost both positions there. So we've now got Steph and Abiadun going side by side. Looks like Abiadun got a poor exit now, so Steph is back up into the 10th spot ahead of Shoaib, who's in 11th, and Abiadun drops to 12th. Is Shoaib going to lose a position down into turn 1? Not quite. He's going to remain in P11. But some incredible action there down towards the rear of the field. But it's Patuka who leads at the moment. He's had a very good start. But he has got Jonis pretty close behind him still. So Jonis will not be too worried at this stage of the race. We've then got Powdy, who looks like he's very close, going the back of Hulkenberg for P6. Is he going to try and move into the hairpin? Not quite. Hulkenberg actually outbrakes him into there, so that's maintained P6 for Hulkenberger. And we've actually got Juice, despite the gap. I don't believe that's representative at all, because we've got Juice right on the back of Rowan 2 for P4. So, oh, we've got a yellow flag now in Sector 2. Is that Abiadun? I think it is. Yeah, Abiadun's had some contact, I think maybe with a wall. Has he got any damage? No, I think he's just had a spin actually, because it doesn't look like he's got any damage. But Abiadun falls down to 12th. It looks like all the drivers actually, despite the Ferraris going off in the first lap, it looks like they all avoided damage. So, although it's definitely a damaging start for the 2 Ferraris, they're in a pretty good position at the moment. So they're not in too bad of shape. Abiadun actually does pit, so maybe he has got damage that I didn't quite pick up when I went on board with him. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 3. Abiadun has actually now retired from the race, so that's a real shame for him. He's decided to call it quits after just a couple of laps, so not the return he would have wanted. And that's our first retirement of the evening. We've got Jonis really starting to put pressure on Patuka. Looks like on race pace terms, Jonis might have the edge side slightly. Just about a question of where he's going to make the move. And he's actually got a little bit more ERS to play with as well, has the Williams car, so he's looking in pretty good shape in the early stages here. Of course, when you are the championship leader, perhaps you do take things a little bit more cautiously than you normally would. You know, Jonis is in a position where he has everything to lose, so you know, he won't want to go for moves that are basically gambles. He will want to try and just get it done under DRS, and if he's close enough here, going onto the main straight, he may potentially get an opportunity down to turn 1. He's got plenty of ERS to use. He's going into overtake, so he clearly thinks this is a good opportunity. He's stayed in overtake quite a lot, but I don't think he's gonna run out of room before he gets to the corner, so he's not actually going to be able to make a move on this lap. And we've got Juice further behind, who's made a move up to 4 past Rowan. Has he? No, he hasn't. So Juice made the move, but then ran a little bit deep, and Rowan gets that P4 straight back again. Onosha Tyres and AMS on those medium compound tyres, up to 8th and 9th places, so I would say that's a pretty solid start for those two. And the more these soft tyres are run, the more those on the medium should become a bigger threat. So I think they'll be very happy with how that's going at the moment. AMS, I think, will be quite happy to just follow his fellow medium shot tyre and just runner and just not really get involved too much, because of course the less they can hold each other up, the better it is for the pair of them later on down the line in this race. But look how close the top three are. Patuka and Jonis, but Game Freaker as well has stuck with them. We've actually got a bit of a gap now forming back to 4th place man Rowan, who's got Juice right behind him. But his top three very much pulling away, and Patuka will definitely be feeling the heat from the cars behind him. This isn't a position he's seen himself in too often this season, and it'll be interesting to see how he copes with that added pressure. Jonis, to me, looks like he's got a fantastic run out the final corner. This could be a fabulous opportunity to overtake. We're going to go on board with him here. He's not using overtake, surprisingly, which is surprising, because to me he had a much better opportunity this time around. We've got Juice again from Rowan, and this time he's made the move stick, so Juice obviously getting a far better run out the final chicane and making the move down the pit straight before they even got to turn 1. So Juice up to 4th place, and we'll be interested to see what he can do now, because we've seen so far in his F7 career he has a lot of pace. So can he start to close in these top 3 who are fighting amongst themselves? We shall see. Game Freaker right now will be quite happy where he's at. He'll just be happy to sit in behind the pair of them. You can see there just doesn't seem to be enough space into the hairpin to really make a move. You're almost relying being alongside the driver in front to make it work for you. And Johnny's there running a little bit wide on the entry. Maybe that was a bit of understeer he picked up in the dirty air of the car in front. You can see already Juice is already making a big impression on the top 3, so this is going to become a 4-way fight for the lead very soon. You almost get the sense that Patuka's slightly holding up some of these cars behind him, but Jonis needs to find a way through. Let's have a look ERS wise speaking. Well, Jonis has got a lot more available to him, so, and he's got a decent run again out the final corner, so he really should be using his overtake here. This is important for Jonis. He needs to get this move done, but he again just running out of straight before he gets to the corner. He's right up behind the Mercedes. I think he just about avoid contact there, but he must be getting impatient now. I know he's going to feel it all the way around this opening sector of the lap. Just that dirty air off the car in front, it makes it so difficult to follow. Nevertheless though, he's still doing a great job keeping pace, which does suggest if he could get past, he could maybe build a lead. But right now Patuka's doing a very good job indeed out front. In terms of ERS deployment behind, Game Freak hasn't got as much. Juice has got a bit more, so he's now come into the equation. I've got to be honest as well, Rowan, Hulkenberg and Powdy are almost being dragged along by this as well. The gaps throughout the field are not particularly big, so this is actually, for me, playing into the hands of Enosha Tyres and AMS, who, well, let's have a look here. They're only 6 seconds off the lead here on the slower tyre at this stage, so, on the harder tyre anyway, so that's definitely playing into their hands, and they could become big threats in the race later on. Fair play to Patuka though, he's not crumbled under the pressure yet. Jonis just looks closer and closer with every lap that passes. Surely it's just all about the exit he gets here at the final chicane. If he gets a good enough exit, he should just stick it in overtake and the move should be done. I think this is his best opportunity yet. Patuka hasn't got much to defend with. Jonis is going to the inside. Surely there's nothing Patuka can do, and I think he realises that, and Jonis takes the lead of the race. It's been coming for a few laps, and he finally got the best run out the final corner. He used his overtake to make the move down the inside into turn 1, and Patuka didn't really have a defence for that one. And it'll be now interesting to see, can Jonis pull away of a Mercedes now? This is a good opportunity for him to build a lead if Patuka does hold up Game Freaker in the same fashion but he held up the Williams beforehand, as Patuka actually picks up a penalty. He ran too much over the curb of the first Egner and has picked up his first penalty of the race. And you can already see Jonis has pretty much left Patuka in his wake. He's already got rid of the chance of a DRS fight back, so Patuka now has got to focus completely on what's happening behind him. He clearly doesn't have the pace to keep the lead at this point of a race. And in fact, Juice got an excellent exit out of the spoon curve there, and he's going to potentially put Game Freaker under some pressure. Not quite, though. In fact, Game Freaker's actually got a bit closer. But Game Freaker hasn't got much ERS to play with. That's going to be his issue. It'll be interesting if he uses it here. In fact, they pit. So both Tucker and Game Freaker are into the pits at the same time. Juice and Rowan continue. Will there be an opportunity perhaps for Game Freaker to do the undercut? Both drivers going onto the hard compound tyre, going for that one-stop strategy. And it's as you were with Game Freaker just behind the Mercedes. As Tim Matt's taking a very strange line down the pit straight there. Almost going into the pit wall. He was that far to the outside of the track. I'm interested to see what AMS can do here. AMS has just been nicely behind Inertia tyres for a good period of time now. These two, of course, running the alternate strategy. I do believe at the pace they're going at, they could become threats for potentially podium later on this race. It, of course, depends how things play out, really, in regards to safety cars and strategies, but they're in a good place right now. You can already see now that Patuka has pitted, you can already see gaps across the top 5 starting to widen. And I'm just interested to see what the likes of Jonas and Juice do here. Surely Jonas will have to cover off the undercut. He can't risk losing that lead he worked so hard to gain. Surely he will have to respond to the cars behind him. He doesn't. No, he doesn't. So that's interesting. Juice comes straight into the pit, so he's decided he wants to respond straight away. But Jonas may be thinking, you know, if I can just keep these soft tyres going for a few more laps, I can potentially run the mediums tyre to the end. That might be his thinking, or he might just want slightly fresher hard compound tyres. And Juice pits for the medium compound tyre. That's an interesting one. I don't think the mediums will make it to the end from here. It'll be a tough ask, that's for sure. And look at where Juice is coming out. He's got Patuka right on his outside. And the nature of that pit exit means they're coming out right alongside each other. It's so important for Juice. He gets in front, and he does. Juice is in front of the Mercedes, and on those medium tyres now, he's going to have to put his foot down to try and pull away. But it'll be interesting to see how the strategy on that one develops as we get further into this Grand Prix, because that would suggest to me that Juice is running a 2-stop race. Steph as well pitting for mediums, so a few different strategies going on out there, and it's going to be interesting to see how they develop over the course of the following 18 laps. Of course, we're only third distance here, as we've got a swap going on between the two Ferraris. Looks to me like that may have been choreographed. We've got Marvin in front of Tim Matz now, and of course Marvin's on the medium tyre, but that's not the line you want to take when you've just been given a position from the car in front. And now we have got Jonas in the pits, and now I'm interested to see what he does for pit. Rowan and Powdy also in the pits now as well, so I suspect Tim Matz will be in 2, and then you've got everyone who started on the softs making a pit stop. Jonas onto mediums, Rowan onto mediums, Powdy onto mediums, so those who stayed out a bit longer then potentially looking at just taking a better tyre to the end. Does Jonas keep? Well, he's actually got a Ferrari to deal with. That's not too much of a worry. Marvin goes in front of him, but Jonas, more importantly for him, retains the provisional race lead, and he wants to clear that Ferrari as quickly as possible. They're behind Juice now in second, but on mediums they're a little bit older. Patuka third, Game Freak fourth, Rowan fifth. It's pretty much as you were. Juice has been the big gainer through his pit stops, but he has pitted for the softer tyre a little bit earlier than I would say is ideal, so we'll see how that goes on throughout the course of this race. Jonas knows he needs to clear this Ferrari though, because Juice has already gained a second on him over the course of this lap, and you can see in his eagerness to try and get through, perhaps squirting the throttle just that little bit too early. So frustrating. Marvin, of course, is not a lapped car. He's under no obligation to get out of the way. Of course, they are running very different strategies at this point, but It's up to Jonas to make that move, and he might be able to do it here. He's using overtake mode. He's going to pull to the outside of 130R, and he'll probably have a move done before he even turns in. Yes, he does. So that's absolutely crucial for the Williams behind, for the Williams and Jonas, really, and he can now try and build a gap, while Juice has that very same problem. And we've once again got Game Freaker and Patuka right behind each other. Game Freaker's problem this race seems to be just ERS management. He doesn't seem to have enough ERS when he really needs it, so perhaps needs a few laps just conserving it. While he's got a bit of a cushion behind him. And we've got Enosha ties out the race. I think he's crashed out somewhere. Let's see if I can catch this on the broadcast. We've got a safety car out now as well, so that's absolutely crucial for this race. I think Kenosha Tyres has gone into the wall. I want to see if I can catch this. It's to the outside of the track. Oh yeah, well, I don't know if he's in the wall. Looks like he may just have retired from there. Not too sure. I noticed AMS had gone past him. It's a shame he can't view cars once they're out of the race, because it'd be interesting to see what happened to Enosha. Maybe he's going to let me know in the chat, but it's gone very far off the track if it is a crash. Either way, it's a shame, because he was looking, along with AMS, in a pretty solid position. And now AMS, surely he's going to make his stop now. Yep, indeed he does, and I'm assuming he will go on to hard tyres and see those through to the end. That hasn't really helped his strategy, I don't think. He could have potentially done a longer stint on mediums and gone on to softs later on if it wasn't for the safety car, but now he's pretty much been forced onto a similar strategy as everyone else. And of course, for those on the medium tyres, especially Juice, who pitted earlier for them, this safety car is going to really help him conserve the tyres. So that's not worked out too badly at all for him. He'll now be in a strong position on his mediums, and now that he's caught up right behind Jonas, it'll be interesting to see what he can do, because I think those two are definitely the quickest two racers here tonight so far, and it could potentially provide some competition for the Williams for this win. AMS, it's also actually worked out pretty well for AMS, because he's rejoined in P6, and like, he's not in too bad of a shape here. He's obviously got much fresher hards than those around him, and we've already seen he's got some solid enough pace, so AMS could be a much bigger threat later on in this race. Hopefully, hopefully we'll be in for an exciting rest of a race now. Obviously, potentially comment from AMS saying that potentially looked deliberate from Enosha Tyres. I hope, of course, that's not the case. He may potentially be asked to provide footage on that one. Of course, his teammate Shoaib is recovering to the back of the pack, so that does help him out. So that, I don't know if that's one thing he had in his mind, but to be fair, it's a real shame, because Enosha himself was having a good race up to that point. So I hope that's not what's happened there, because he was right with AMS at the time, and you see now where AMS is. Enosha would have probably come out around probably around where Powdy was, so that would have worked out pretty well for him as well. So let's do a quick rundown of the order then. We'll actually look at the positions gained from the start of the race. So we've got Jonas, who's lead the race. Of course, he overtook Patuka on lap 5. And has pretty much held the lead since then, to be fair. He's looked the class of the field, but Juice now second, who's also been making his way through after, I think you would say, a slightly disappointing qualifying session. We've then got Patuka in third, the pole sitter down a couple of places. Hasn't looked like he's got that same pace that he had in qualifying, but still hanging around the podium positions. We've got Game Freaker in fourth, who He's probably sick of the sight of that Mercedes now. He's been following it most of the race. We've got Rowan in 5th. We've then got AMS, who's gained 5 places up to 6th. We've got Hulkenberger in 7th, Powdy in 8th. And we've got Stefan Marvin, who are, well, Marvin and Tim Mats can't decide whether they want to be 10th or 11th, but it is Marvin in 10th ahead of Tim Mats. For both Ferraris went off on the opening lap and had to try and recover from that. So that explains somewhat as to why they've moved down certain positions. I really don't understand what's going on here between the two Ferraris, and I don't believe they should be swapping places. But anyway, Tim Mats now back ahead of Marvin, so like I said, I don't believe he should be swapping positions under the safety car. Maybe Ferrari thinking that getting Tim Mats ahead is a better strategy, because obviously he's on better tyres, but yeah, a bit of a strange one that. I know sometimes this game does let you do that without penalising you. And will the safety car be coming in at the end of this lap? All the cars have caught up to it, so potentially, yep, safety car is coming in this lap, so it's just going to be flat out to the end now. Barring another safety car period, there shouldn't be any more pit stops for fresh tyres, because these tyres they've got on now should make the end. So it's all just a flat out charge to the finish. And it's up now to Jonas as to when he wants to bolt. He's bunching the field up quite significantly indeed. But I assume once he gets straight out of his final corner, he's absolutely going to nail it. And indeed he does. So we're back underway here at the Japanese Grand Prix. But I've got to say, Juice has actually stayed very well with him. Is Juice going to have a chance into turn 1? Not quite, but he definitely kept with Williams at the restart. So that didn't work out too badly for him at all. We've got Powdy further down, who was just behind Hulk, but stays behind for now. And everyone is back underway and looking good. No incidents at all to report so far. And it's all a big question now to see what Juice can do against Williams. Jonas has looked in control of this race since taking the lead, but this could be his sternest challenge up to date. Juice, who won last week at Hanoi, took pole at Monza before his race kind of fell apart really. Still got decent points, but not the points he potentially should have got. And they're already building a little bit of a margin behind him to Tucker, who once again has that McLaren right rooted to his rear. And there's some drivers here I'm interested to see how they get on. Of course, it's going to be difficult to make any moves stick at this period of the race before the DRS comes into effect. The important thing is to stay within 1 second of the car in front so you don't lose that DRS toe, because it's not just an attacking mechanism, it can be a defensive one too. If you lose that DRS to the car in front, you're more under threat from the car behind, and that potentially could be the case for the Tucker, who's slipped to second behind Juice and has got Game Freaker itching to get past. Indeed AMS as well, right behind Rowan, who is surprisingly struggling for a little bit of pace at his restart, but he has managed to get back some of that time that he lost. He had briefly slipped out with DRS range of Game Freaker, but he's found that time back again. And it's really Tucker's the one you've got to keep an eye on here, because he can absolutely not afford to lose the DRS to the car in front. But it's not looking particularly good for him at the moment. Juice, in fact, also pushing to stay close enough to the race leader. He does not want to let Jonas get in front. Jonas didn't particularly have the most confident of starts to the season, I think that's fair to say. But he really has come into his own of late. You know, he didn't actually get a podium until the 3rd race of the season, and then it's only the last 3 races where he's had 3 consecutive podiums, the 1st and 2 second places. So, like I said, it's only the last 3 races where he's managed to start really building this almost dominant streak in F7. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and Jonas is really looking at his strongest at the moment. Juice, though, new to the league, not got any pressure in terms of a championship, and that ultimately may mean he's a bit more relaxed at this stage of the race. He's left Patuka way in his wake, as we've now got a change for position further down, so whatever the Ferraris were trying under the safety car didn't work, and in fact now they've swapped back round again, Marvin back in front. So Ferrari's strategy here quite puzzling. I don't know if they're trying to impersonate real life as Tim Matz goes off a corner where we've seen so many drivers have issues. The uphill right-hander sometimes can create real problems on the traction. The rear end of the car goes light and it's caught out Tim Matz here, who's having, well, a bit of a shocker, it has to be said. Things just not going his way, and he's now dropped firmly to the back of the field. He won't have damage, but he's lost a lot of time, which will be difficult to gain back. DRS should come into effect from the next lap. And Patuka actually gapped Game Freak ever so slightly, so he's not struggling for pace as such. He just cannot stay with these top two, who are absolutely charging. I almost feel like they're pushing each other along here. Juice does not want to let Jonas get away here. And look at that. Jonas sets the fastest lap, but Juice immediately beats it. And he has got DRS now, but he's not quite close enough on this occasion. One driver who might potentially be in a position to attack is Powdy. Is he close enough into the braking zone? Not quite, and he has to back out of it on this occasion. If straight had been just that little bit longer, he would have had a good chance to move up to 7, but they'll have to wait for another lap on that one. Hulkenberger struggling to keep pace with those in front of him. And it's quite clear now that those on the medium tyres are looking in better shape right now. You can see Rowan starting to close up to the back of Game Freaker. The hope, of course, will be for those on hard tyres that, although they may have a disadvantage now, it might work out better for them towards the end. Juice is the one to keep an eye out on the mediums, because he did pit the earliest for them. So he's the one who may suffer towards the end with them. Like I said, that safety car period, absolutely a blessing for him. We've got Rowan right on the back of Game Freaker here. Game Freaker should have DRS himself, so that will nullify some of the opportunity for the AlphaTauri. Unless Rowan thinks about a move into the chicane, but it just wasn't going to work. Well, this is a good opportunity though. He's using overtake, so he clearly thinks the move is on. Game Freak has had to go defensive despite having DRS. Rowan goes to the outside of turn 1, but there's just no room to make the move stick, and he has to slot him behind for now. And oh, we've got Powdy and Hulk going side by side for the first couple of corners, but Hulk holds on to 7th place, and it's now creating a little bit of a train reaction behind him, because Steph is right there as well, as is Marvin. So Hulk just seems to be struggling on those hard tyres at the moment. Maybe not got them up to temperature, who knows, but the pace he showed early on, he's just not finding that same level of grip and confidence on the hard tyres. But that's a mistake from Powdy, and will Steph potentially think about a dive into the hairpin? No, he will not. He's got to watch out for Marvin behind him, who I think actually slightly taps the back of his car there at the hairpin. I don't think that's enough to have caused any kind of damage. No, Shatai is just clearing up that his steering wheel disconnected, and that's why, unfortunately, why he DNF'd. That's a real shame for him. Hoping for his sake he has better luck next week at China. It's not what he wanted. Like I say, he was in a good position at the time against, running kind of roughly where AMS was on the same strategy, so he would have been in the fight there, sort of around 7th or 8th place, I do believe. So some good points there, unfortunately for him, have gone begging on this occasion. And Juice, in fact, is right behind Jonas there, so he had his best run on the pit straight this occasion, but again, just not quite close enough. It is definitely the best overtaking spot around here, turn 1, but even then, it's not easy to make a move stick. And we've got a yellow flag in sectors 1, that's Marvin, who I think has had a moment. He's lost a position to Shoaib, and he looks like he has some damage too, I would say. on that front wing, so really not going Ferrari's way this evening at all. Just cannot seem to get things to work, and fortunately, it's an unfortunate metaphor for Ferrari's real life season, I'm afraid. Still points available for them if some more things happen in front of them though, so I'm sure they'll hopefully keep going to the end and see what happens. These top two are just absolutely in a race of their own. You can see how much they are pushing each other along. It's very much a two-way scrap here for the race win, and Juice will know that Jonas has got a championship to fight for, and will almost think that if he can get up the inside, the Williams will not fight that much. There's no need for him to fight that much. This isn't a battle that ultimately is going to decide the championship for Jonas. Juice does go to the inside into turn one, and Jonas tries to stick it out. Around the outside, Juice gives him space. They're going to keep going side by side here. Oh, and in the end, oh, and he actually taps the rear of the Alfa Romeo, so Jonas was definitely not thinking of a championship there. He was just thinking, I want to win this race, and Juice has got in front of him, and I hope for Jonas' sake he hasn't picked up any damage on the front wing of that Williams, because there was some slight contact there. Oh, and he nearly clips the curb too much as well, so Juice takes the lead. He's been threatening that for a while now, and as I said, that safety car played into his hands too, because you could see that the pace was there. It was just unfortunate really that the qualifying session let him down somewhat. You can see how much the two of them slowed each other down though, because Tucker has definitely taken a decent chunk of time out of him on this lap. I don't think Jonas is going to go away from this battle though. I think this is going to be one that keeps going to the end. Of course, Patuka has a penalty, I know that. I don't know how everyone else's penalties stack up. I just do remember Patuka having a penalty that flashed up. This isn't really a track where you're going to get multiple penalties really, unless you're really careless. But just the odd penalty here and there could decide things, and Game Freaker now has a penalty as well. So we do have a few penalties going on. What does Jonas do this occasion? He's not using his overtake, so obviously thinking better of it on this occasion. And we've got Powdy and Hulkenberger battling once again, and this time Powdy has got the move done. I think he's been lining that up for a few laps now as well. And eventually Powdy makes it stick for P7. Hulkenberger just not having the best time of things on those hard tyres. It definitely looks like the soft tyres, or the mediums rather, are the ones that you wanted to be on. Rowan now picks up a penalty as well, so all the people battling for third place at the moment have got at least one penalty each. So it may still very well be decided on the racetrack. We've got Steph now right on the back of Hulkenberger as well. Obviously Williams and McLaren are two of the teams fighting for the Constructors' title, so although this may be a battle for 8th place at the moment, it's also very key in that Constructors' fight. They'd probably both admit that they're kind of, I won't say the number 2 drivers in their team, but they're the ones that are less likely to win the championship. But we're very happy to fight for that Constructors' title. I know that both Game Freaker and Hulk and Jonas and Steph get along very well and are aiming for the Constructors' title, so this fight's very important in that regard. Both their teammates currently on course to score some very nice points indeed. Oh, and Steph's gone into the wall, is out of the race. He lost it on the exit, out the chicane, trying to apply the throttle in his attempts to get past Hulk, and he's gone into the pit wall, and that's a really nasty accident. Thankfully it's a virtual race, so he will be absolutely okay, but that's a real shame to see for Steph, looking for some good points, clearly in an absolute desperate bid to try and get past Hulk as quickly as possible, and unfortunately for him that's resulted in him going into the pit lane wall. It's not the first person we've seen in that wall, and that's unfortunately an end to his race. He will not be scoring any points this evening, and that should mean that Ferrari will score at least something from tonight's race. Let's just have a quick check on who's got the fastest lap of the race. It is Juice. You can look at that, 1:29.2 for Juice, 1:29.3 for Jonas. The others behind them in the high 29s. It just shows the difference in pace we're seeing between these top two and the rest. And the virtual safety car should be ending very shortly. There you go, it's back underway. It looks like it's fairly even across the front too, but Game Freaker looks like he got an absolutely blinding restart. And he's going for the move on Patuka into 130R, and he's got it done. So Game Freaker took massive advantage of that virtual safety car period, and was clearly more alert to the restart, and has used that to get up into third place. Brilliant awareness there from Game Freaker, sensed his opportunity and has grabbed that third place as Patuka got a chance under DRS to take it back though into turn one. We shall see. Oh, they're side by side going into turn one. They give each other as much room as possible. Patuka trying to go right round the outside. Oh, they're still alongside each other into this next sequence of corners. This is unbelievable stuff. But it looks like Game Freaker's just going to keep it. But no, he's not. They're still alongside each other for this first sector. That's incredible racing. Brilliant respect between the pair of them. And Patuka eventually gets the move back again. What incredible racing between the pair of them there. Hats off to both of them to give each other enough room there through that very difficult sequence of corners. Difficult enough to do on your own, let alone with someone right next to you, alongside you. But they managed it, and cleanly as well, and well done to Patuka. He didn't give up on that place, and he's got that place back. And Game Freaker, as frustrated as he will be, I know the racer at heart, he will have massively enjoyed that fight. And I suspect it's not over yet. Great stuff to see between the pair of them. That is something I'm definitely going to remember, a battle I'm going to remember for a long time. We've got Rowan now, who is right behind this pair. Of course, that battle of Unif helped him close in. And he'll want to join in with this fight now as he's going to try and look down the outside of a final chicane, but Game Freaker's later on the brakes. And all of a sudden, Game Freaker, looking at third place, is now fighting to keep hold of fourth. It just shows how quickly things can change. And he's not going to be close enough on this occasion to turn one, but you can see that Rowan is desperate to try and get that place. And I've got to say, Patuka definitely wins the award for the overtake of the race. Not usually an award I would mention, but I mean, that's just incredible. Like, to go side by side for all these corners in sector one. Of course, we know this track is so difficult to follow through that first sector as it is, and then to go alongside as well. Just stunning, absolutely stunning driving from the pair of them, and the sort of driving we absolutely love to see here at PSGL. And I hope you all enjoyed that battle as well, just as much as I did, because that was a sight to behold. We've got Jonas, who's keeping with Juice's DRS range, but he's really getting close enough to fight back. Has Juice here done enough, barring penalties, to potentially win this one out? Of course, this would be Jonas's third second place in a row, so extreme consistency from him, and of course he will widen his championship lead further. His nearest challenger is Powdy, and he's only 7th at the moment, so in terms of a championship, it's not at all bad for Jonas. The only potential danger for him is if Juice keeps up this winning streak, he potentially could snatch it away. But he won't be worried about that. He'll want to try and set his eyes on getting that place back. He won't let Juice off the hook. And we've now got Shoib, who is also really close behind Hulkenberger for 8th place. Of course, with Steph out the equation now, it's very much down to Shoib to see if he can drop Hulk down any more places. Hulk looks like he's sort of salvaged some of his pace now. He struggled initially on those hard tyres, but his pace is a bit stronger at this stage of the race, and he looks a bit more settled in that P8. Powdy looks like he might be gaining on AMS ever so slightly. AMS in quite a lonely 6th place at the moment, may come under threat from Powdy in the closing stages. Patuka now has actually pulled away from Game Freaker and is potentially getting out of his DRS range. And look how close Jonas is to Juice. So Jonas has had an absolutely storming lap and is now right onto the back of Juice again. But he did run slightly wide through a spoon curve, and that will cost him some of his momentum. He doesn't have a lot of ERS to play with. What's Juice's situation like? Juice has got a lot more ERS in hand, so unless he gets an absolutely blinding X out the last corner, which I think he has got actually. It's a decent exit. Is it going to be enough? He's using as much of his overtake as he can. As yellow flag in sector 3, and what's happened to Powdy? Powdy, second of the championship, has had a moment. I think coming out of the final chicane. And he's lost places now as Hulk does lose the place to Shoaib going into turn 1. Gets the move done before they even enter the apex, and Shoaib up to 7th. Hulk so remains in 8th though, because Powdy's dropped behind them both. So even better news for Jonas now is his nearest championship rival is only in 9th place. Things definitely falling into place at the moment for the Williams driver. When you look at the driver who's currently in 3rd place, and you've got Game Freaker, so he's actually potentially Game Freaker here could get right up there with Powdy, but even so, Jonas's lead now is going to go over the 20-point mark, and that's a formidable lead to have with just 5 races to go after this one. And he could potentially up it by a few points further if he can just get this lead back from the Alfa Romeo, who's had a superb start to his F7 career here at PSGL. It's very, very impressive stuff. And these two have been the class of the field today, undoubtedly deserve the top 2 positions. We're now coming on to the final lap of the race, so if Jonas wants to make a move for the lead, it's going to have to be now, but I don't think he's got enough VRS to play with. Juice actually has just done the fastest lap of the race, just shows how much of these pair are still pushing each other along. And you suspect even on the final lap, that lap record could be broken yet. We've got Marvin now moving his way past Powdy. Has Powdy got some damage, or is he just struggling? Perhaps in these latter stages, but Marvin now up to 9th. Powdy drops to 10th. It's a miserable race for him. Usually Mr. Consistent in picking up these excellent point scoring positions. It's what's got him into the position that he finds himself in the championship, but tonight it's just not worked out at all well for him. Doesn't look like Jonas is close enough on his final lap to really chance his arm anywhere. It's going to be a tall order from here on in, I think, to try and snatch this win away from Juice, who's done an excellent job. Both pair of them actually have been very, very impressive tonight. And we've got just one final run down the back straight to go. Got to 130R. Jonas just isn't close enough to do anything about it. It's frustrating for him. But Juice now around the final chicane for the final time. Of course, penalties, we'll see if that makes a difference to the result. But across the line first, Juice is going to cross the line first and wins here at the Japanese Grand Prix. PSGL F7, it's Juice's 2nd victory in a row. And he really has announced himself onto the PSGL scene here. Deeply impressive stuff. We've got Patuka, who takes 3rd ahead of Game Freaker. Rowan is in 5th. Shoaib is in 6th. AMS 7th. And we've got Hulk. Powdy does get 9th for the end thanks to Marvin's penalties. Marvin takes the final point scoring position, and Tim Match just misses out. But massively well done to Juice there. Fantastic job that he did tonight. Driver of the day according to the game, and I mean, I've got to be honest, there's a few special mentions I want to give before I say who my driver of the day is. I think Patuka deserves a mention. He got a fantastic pole position. Didn't quite have that same sort of race pace, but he still got a very good 3rd place, and of course you cannot ignore that fantastic overtake he did on Game Freaker, where they went side by side for practically the entirety of the opening sector. That was some superb racing. And Jonas as well, you know, some more really solid points for his championship bid. So again, a great job from him, but I can't disagree with the game. I think Juice, from 6th on the grid, did an absolutely storming job. Did some great overtakes in the opening stint. Made the early gamble, I would say, to go on to mediums. The safety car really helped him out on that one. It moved him up to 2nd, right behind the race leader. And then he made that move past Jonas into turn 1 and held him off to secure the win. And I can't say fairer than that for me. Juice absolutely deserves driver of the day, and a fantastic job for him indeed. So yeah, Shoaib, in fact, benefited a lot from those penalties at the end. Didn't pick up any penalties. Neither did Hulk, Powdy, Juice, Jonas or Tim Mats. So a few drivers there not picking up penalties, so congrats to them on that one. But yeah, that's your race results. Juice, in fact, also gets the extra points for the fastest lap, which he set on the penultimate lap as he was desperately trying to pull away. And those two just were in a league of their own towards the end of that one. So yeah, massive well done to all the podium finishers there. To Juice, to Jonas, and indeed to Patuka. That does indeed consolidate Jonas's championship lead going to China next week for round 10. As our VF7 championship battle rages on further. It's been an absolutely fantastic evening of racing. I hope you've all enjoyed that as much as I have. I'll catch you the same time next week for round number 10 of PSGL F7. It'll be 8 o'clock on Sunday as normal. Be sure to join me for that one then. Be sure to keep an eye out as well tomorrow night. We've got some fantastic racing across PSGL with the F1 all the way through to F5 leagues running. I'll also be back in the commentary box for Felix for F5 with that one. But until then, it's good night from me, and I'll catch you on the flip side.